Ahead and begin recording the meeting for today. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us for this graduate assistant training workshop. Our hope is that this event is informative, not too lengthy, and gives you some tools that you're going to need for your time here as a research assistant or teaching assistant. If you have questions today, please do feel free to use the chat function. We will have someone monitoring that. We will not have your faces or your voices because we do wish to record this meeting for anyone who was unable to attend today, and also for you if you would like to come back and review this information again. If you could please, as you have questions, feel free to send them. If you have questions after the fact, again, if you can email gradschool@luc.edu. My name is Heather Sevner. I am the Assistant Dean for Student Services here in the Graduate School, and it is my great pleasure to introduce Sue Penkhofer, faculty in the School of Nursing and our Associate Dean for Academic Programs. She's going to give you a rousing welcome for today and talk to you a little bit about what it means to be a graduate assistant at Loyola. Sue, take it away.
Thank you, Heather. Welcome to the Graduate Student Orientation. We scheduled another excellent day of orientation today, and it was planned by Heather and the graduate school staff. Today is for students who will be assuming roles as a teacher or research assistant for the various programs in the graduate school. If you're not taking on one of those roles, you do not have to stay, but you're welcome to stay. And most likely Heather sent you a link for a reason that you need to stay. First, congratulations on your achievement in attaining a merit award from the graduate school. It's truly an honor and indicates our faith and confidence in your abilities as a student to perform the various responsibilities that Heather will be describing shortly. You are at an amazing school and have outstanding professors and socially minded and talented peers. So being here will be an experience that you will cherish, maybe not at this moment, but when you graduate, and you will graduate, so savor the time that you are here. Having been at Loyola for over 35 years, I can share with you my personal experience as a faculty member who has served as a mentor for both TAs and RAs. In addition, I can personally say that when students have these opportunities, they are more prepared for their future careers. In addition, it is oftentimes a selling point to getting your future faculty or research position. So please enjoy it and make it worth your time and effort. In assuming the responsibilities associated with an assistantship, you will wonder if you can do it, which you can, and also wonder if you are doing it right, which you will be, and you'll learn how to do it better as time goes on. The one thing to always remember is that generally you will know more than the students you teach and supervise. And if you don't, in some instance, acknowledge the student by saying, hey, good question. You can talk about that next week and we'll all read up on it. Never feel or believe that you have to know everything, because it's not possible. And always remember, as we discussed yesterday by our speakers, that the imposter feeling is normal. These feelings should not deter you from the experiences that you need and will enjoy, because sooner rather than later you will realize that you're not an imposter, but someone who is a dedicated and passionate teacher and researcher. So when you think about how can I get here, how did I get here, how could they think I could do this role, know that you can and will do the role, as we observed from all of your peers on the panel yesterday's discussions. They were fabulous. So how can you ensure your success as a TA or RA? Set up regular meetings with your mentor and perhaps your GPD as well. If the GPD is not your mentor, maybe less frequently, but also see your GPD. Your mentor is the person who you are responsible teaching with or doing your research with. If you have not communicated with your mentor by now, you need to do so ASAP, okay? Don't wait for them to email you, be proactive. You do not need to wait to hear from them. As a member of the Academic Loyola COVID team, we had questions from students in our portal. When will I hear from my teachers? You have to remember they're busy like you, but feel free to contact them. They're waiting for you. Some might even assume if they don't hear from you that you already know how to do your role. So ensure your success by constant communication. Just like the students you are teaching will depend upon you for your assistance, your mentor will depend on you for ensuring the success of their students that you are teaching. Therefore, set a standing day and time of the week every week to meet with your mentor. Even offer send out the Zoom links to meet. That'll be one less thing that they'll have to do. And when you meet with them, there'll be some days that your meetings will be brief and other days it seems like it will never end. But get into a routine and be consistent in your meeting times. When you're meeting with your mentors, be prepared. Keep a log of your hours spent in preparing and carrying out your TA or RA weekly activities. Your commitment for awards is around 19 hours a week. It does not include the time that you might spend doing your own lab work or homework for your classes. Sometimes students will say, I spent 40 hours last week in the lab, and oftentimes it's 20 hours teaching and grading, and the other 20 hours is working on your own research project or class for graduate study. If it is true that you are spending more than 19 hours per week, you need to speak to your mentor. And if you're not comfortable, seek out myself or Heather in the graduate school. So as to how to approach the situation, because we don't want you to feel overworked and exhausted. What is true is that the 19 hours a week that you spend teaching or conducting research will go very quickly. You'll be surprised how long it takes to generate a 1-hour lecture. It might take you a whole day to do a 1-hour lecture. Grade homework, and ouch, grade the student essays if you're a TA. Or how long it takes to create a research protocol or collect data and generate reports if you are a research assistant. But by recording your time spent and what you are doing, you will be able to provide your mentor with an accounting of your time and hours spent for your assistantship. You also start to understand what experiences you still need to have, which is really important in your growth. It's important to not waste time that can be spent more efficiently and effectively. Therefore, get guidance on rubrics for grading as a TA and as an RA for procedures on the research study. Your mentor should provide that for you. And if they don't, then ask so that you can have that information instead of trying to generate materials that may be already established. Your mentor may ask you to develop some of these materials, however, as long as there is clear direction from them, it's going to be a learning opportunity. Also seek feedback on your work from your students as well as your mentor. Oftentimes it's best if you grade some papers and the mentor grades the same papers and you compare your results. This is a learning opportunity. The same for your research when you're collecting it or analyzing it. Seeing that you can replicate what your mentor does will give you confidence to know that you are doing it right. The TA and RA awards are renewable given good progress, and you must maintain a B average to retain your award and also work hard. And it is rare that someone does a poor job, but it does happen. And generally it happens when you go missing in action. Thus, keep your mentor informed. If you become overwhelmed or you don't think you're doing an acceptable job or you're unsure of what you are doing, reach out to them. The easiest way to get behind is to be missing in action. It's acceptable that you're new and not to have it all understood. And you can't identify what's going wrong. Oftentimes discussion with a mentor can be quite valuable. Don't think you're bothering your mentor. My students would often look at me from the hallway and I would have no clue they wanted to talk to me because I was busy at my computer. Please, we just look busy, probably because we are, but we want to be disturbed to ensure you and your students have a successful experience. Dr. Paige Gardner, a recent PhD graduate, gave an outstanding talk yesterday, and it's recorded if you missed it. She pointed out, think about what stops you from asking. What are the benefits of asking? Who is your circle of trust, and where is your list of LUC resources for yourself and for your students? These are great points to keep in mind. And please make sure that you ask your mentor how you are performing and what you can do better. We can always do better in everything. And don't take it personal if given feedback that may be critical, as it is important for your development as a teacher and scholar. Your departments will have orientation this week. So if you have not heard about it, you need to find out about it because classes start on Monday. Many departments also have weekly meetings with their TAs or RAs. So please see if that exists in your department. And if it doesn't, perhaps you can seek out students who may have served previously in your new role for guidance in the department. Maybe even organize a student group and a Zoom lunch to have discussions about how your experiences are going. You will not be surprised to learn that you share many of the same issues. And to learn from each other is always a plus, since we're all in this together. What if you're sick or you need time off to study for exams when you're doing your assistantship? You can't plan on being ill, but you can plan your exam study time or attendance at conferences. So the sooner you know your schedule, the more likely are you going to be successful in working with your mentor, because you will not leave them in a lurch. If you're ill, and it's bound to happen, make sure they know how they can assist you or relieve you with a particular student. You need to be your own advocate. Particularly in this time of COVID, it can be so unexpected, but there are always backups planned for these situations. So don't feel guilty if you are ill. You can't help it. What about your mentor? Well, sometimes you'll find, and I hope not very often, you just don't feel like it's working for you, your relationship with your mentor. If that happens, please reach out to myself and Heather. Perhaps we can work with you on communicating better with your supervisor. Also, if you desire other opportunities, even if you love your mentor over the course of your awards, if you're a teacher and you want a different course to teach, or if you want to work with different faculty, it's generally possible in most departments. In fact, it's great to have a breadth of opportunities if you're able. In fact, I think that's one of the best things that you can do when you're in school. However, it's also kind of easier if you teach the same course because you're able to refine it and become an expert in an area. So you'll have to work with yourself and your mentor and maybe your colleagues in determining what works best for you. In these situations, if you're ill or you need time off, be ahead of the game. Talk to your mentor or your graduate program director about plans for the upcoming semester. And midway through the semester, they're planning for the next semester. So make sure you make your feelings and thoughts known very early. Now, what are some challenges this semester? Well, COVID and the lack of face-to-face contact is challenging, and you're all experienced it this past spring. And we understand that online teaching and doing research is not what your peers really may want, nor what you may want, but it's something we must do. The university has agreed that it is the safest option for all students. Your goal will be to maintain the standards of our Jesuit tradition in your teaching and research roles. Now, if any of you have any on-campus activities for your role, please follow the guidelines that your mentors will provide to you. And to be on campus will be very few people, and specific protocols will have to be followed. If you've been informed that you need to be on campus and you do not feel comfortable because you have a risk factor or you're a caregiver to others who may be at risk, we ask that you complete the paperwork for accommodations to the Student Accessibility Center. Your health is most important to us all. You needn't feel pressured to come to campus if you don't feel comfortable. And if you're assigned on campus, this form will be processed to assist you to work remotely and maintain your assistantship. As TAs, there will probably be concerns about your lack of experience with online teaching and research. Why wouldn't there be if you've never done it? Over the course of this summer and this fall, classes were or are being offered to develop your skills for online teaching. And some of you may have seen through graduate announcements some of the opportunities to take these classes. However, Heather has graciously prepared a session for you at 1 p.m. in order to get the critical information out to you. So be sure to attend that session if you're a TA or you desire to learn about online learning. In addition, you should discuss with your mentor your experience, if any, with online teaching. In other words, clarify their expectations with your preparation to do online learning. Be honest if you've never done it before. But most likely, because you've grown up in the age of technology, you're going to be ahead of the game compared to them. I can tell you that. So take advantage of the online learning opportunities. They're numerous. And the good thing about it is that you can earn a teaching certificate while you're a TA or an RA, which is a nice addition to your portfolio for future employment. In terms of online research, you have to learn about new methods of doing research online, like doing systematic literature reviews of evidence. The librarians are great for helping you with that. For those of you who will be research assistants, this will be an opportunity to conduct research using virtual sessions for data collections or simulations for assessing the efficacy of newly developed protocols. And evaluating the success of these strategies is a part of research. There are various offices in the university resource list that you will get to assist you. So what are the goals of your assistantship? Of course, gaining the skills to be a better teacher in research is the most important goal of having an assistantship. But another benefit will be the relationship that you develop along the way. Since publications and scholarships are important for your own personal and professional development, having mentoring relationships promotes this opportunity, and it's very important. You'll be able to develop writing skills for presenting research or teaching methodologies at conferences. They may be virtual, but you'll be able to still present them, as well as publishing papers. Thus, working with your faculty on developing your professional portfolio is a benefit to you when being a graduate assistant. This is a goal you should all have as part of your graduate education experience. Now I know Heather will highlight on our website the various potential expectations of each of these roles, where you'll be able to find the job descriptions. But please reach out to me or to our office about any issues, both positive and negative, about your experience as a TA or RA. We're so excited to have you here with us at Loyola and want to make sure your experience is everything that you want it to be. So I'll turn it over to Heather and Tamika. It was a pleasure to meet you virtually and allowing you to share my thoughts with you. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Sue. Everyone who has joined us in the last couple of minutes, welcome to our GA training workshop for this morning. You should be able to see a chat box at the bottom. If you have any questions during the session today, please do feel free to use that. I am going to introduce my colleague, Tamika, as soon as I can find her. My apologies. Hold on one moment. Let's see.
I see her name. Tamika?
I do too.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah.
there she is.
Tamika. All right. I am going to hand over the reins to Tamika to give you guys an introduction to her work and then also just some general tips and tricks she has for you as graduate assistants.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Tamika Toller, and as Heather stated, I'm the awards coordinator for the graduate school. My primary responsibility is ensuring your funds from the graduate school are dispersed to you through tuition and your stipend payments. I won't take up too much of your time, but I did want to go over a few items to ensure your transition goes smoothly so you can focus on your program and not your finances. So to start off, for those who haven't completed new hire paperwork, please make sure that you do so and ensure that you review the new hire packet thoroughly and sign in the appropriate spots. You also want to make sure to include all required documents, and the accepted documents are listed within your new hire packet after the I-9 form. So there's a list of items that you can submit. You can send those packets through Loyola's secure email directly to me, and the instructions for this process was sent to your Loyola emails. But if you have any questions or concerns, definitely feel free to reach out. As for tuition, at this point, you should have tuition charged, as well as insurance, actually, if you selected to receive it. It's important that you check your student account periodically to make sure that your tuition and awards are charging correctly. You'll also want to check your direct deposits, whether it's through a banking institution or a physical check that's been issued to you, to ensure your stipend amounts are correct, especially the first one. Overall, I think it's important that we're all proactive. If there are changes to your enrollment hours, please report those changes to me immediately, as any changes made should reflect your tuition charges and your tuition awards, and we want to ensure that you're receiving the correct amounts to cover your charges. Again, if there are any issues or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us sooner rather than later. It's always easier to fix an issue early on than later. As I stated, I wouldn't take up too much of your time, but I would like to just congratulate you on this journey, and I look forward to possibly meeting some of you in the future. Heather.
Thanks very much, Tamika. I appreciate you going over that for students. I have been told there might be some issues with the chat function, so let me see if I can correct that for all of you so that if you have any questions, you do have access to that. While I am working on that, let's see. Oh, I think you should be able to. If you're a student and you want to test out the chat function, that would be fantastic right now. That will let me know whether or not you have access to it. I do want to make sure that you guys can ask us questions throughout the day. I want to go ahead and move forward with our conversation for today and share with you some information concerning the policies around your work as a graduate student assistant. So as we discussed yesterday, policies are not always the most exciting thing, but I do think it's important for us to go through some of these rules and regulations so that you don't run into problems later. We certainly don't want you to have any reason to have your assistantship in jeopardy. So just to begin, oh, I see a raised hand. So I think that means that the chat's not working. Hold on one moment, because I do want that to be an option for all of you. That might just take me a second. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the requirements for teaching assistants. This is all policy information that you can find on the website underneath departmental assistantships within the Financing Your Education section of our website. Walking through what this policy is not going to be exciting and fun, but again, I hope will be helpful to you as you are working with us this year. It's important to note that teaching assistant can cover a broad range of things that you might end up doing. You might be teaching a class as a teacher of record, grading assignments, holding office hours, working with students, leading discussions, mentoring, tutoring, proctoring exams, teaching classes on your own, and preparing instructional material. All of those things might fall under the umbrella of being a teaching assistant. In many cases, each one of these kinds of roles will be important to you as you proceed in your professional career in one way or another. If you would like to try to teach a class, present something to a class that you're assisting with, lead a discussion group, something that would give you an opportunity to build a new skill set, that's definitely something you should communicate to your supervisor. It's possible that they don't know what your own comfort level is or your prior preparation for this. And so giving them a sense of the kinds of skills that you want to build will be helpful and will help to build a stronger relationship between you and your mentor. Your hours for a teaching assistantship, as Sue mentioned before, has to be less than 19.5 hours per week. That's given federal guidelines around student working. As you know, our teaching assistantships are not employees, and so your work is seen within the sort of structure of a student worker. There will be variation, as always, in the number of hours spent in any particular time of year. Things might be a little bit more intense, for instance, during midterms or finals. So you'll want to keep in mind these kinds of ups and downs in this over the course of the semester and how they might impact both your coursework for yourself and the courses that you're working in. Some of you will have a partial teaching assistantship. It's usually less than 16 hours per week and would give you an opportunity to potentially have another position on campus where you're doing some additional work. Please keep in mind that your total number of hours for working on Loyola's campus is 19.5 hours, regardless of whether or not it's in one department or multiple departments. We do expect that you will be participating in assessments at the end of your quarter, and you will at the end of your semester, and that information will be helpful to you and to the department as they train for further teachers. All teaching assistants with a native language that is other than American English are required to take an English proficiency test on campus. If this is true of you, please do reach out to us so that we can schedule that English proficiency exam. We try to schedule them so that you and your colleagues can take them at the same time. These are the important policies around non-renewal. Obviously, we don't expect to have to use any of these, and thankfully we have great luck with students in these roles not having to do anything that would cause non-renewal. The first is you need to maintain your academic standing. So what does that mean? That means you need to stay registered in the appropriate classes. You need to make sure that you're taking your courses have met your minimum GPA requirements, that you keep a minimum of a 3.0 GPA, which is actually just keeping you within good standing at the graduate school, and that your behaving in a professional fashion. So what does that mean? That means that if you're expected to be in class or in a meeting, you are there, that you are participating in whatever way is expected of you, and that you are abiding by all other university policies around academic honesty and appropriate relationships with students and faculty. It's important that you are aware of the university's policies around academic dishonesty, ethics, professional code of conduct, etc. And that information is all available within our website. So please do take a look at that. It all falls within the realm of what would be considered professional behavior that we assume all of you will have as you come into your time as a graduate student. It's important to remember that the departments and your students are relying on you. So what does that mean? That means that you are incredibly valuable to the university and the work that you do. And then we hope that if for whatever reason you have to relinquish your assistantship, you will give appropriate notice, that you'll communicate to everyone involved what the situation is, and that you'll stay in contact with us. Obviously, under the situation happening with COVID right now, it's hard to anticipate when you might need to take time away from your work for health reasons. But please do remember that the more you can be in contact with our staff and with your mentor in your department, the easier it will be for us to make sure that if you do have an issue, you're able to return and take on the role that you have committed to as a teaching assistant. I'm going to move back to our research assistant position. You'll see that a lot of these things are very similar. The exception being just sort of the role that you take in the university. So let me switch that. Okay. Let's speak to research assistants. Okay. So, as a research assistant in your department, I think that you'll find that the responsibilities that you have might be a little bit different, a little bit less clear to you upon starting the year. So I want to make sure that we sort of walk through what's expected as a research assistantship with a sense that your own research assistantship is going to depend so greatly upon the kind of research that is done in your department, upon your research mentor, and that it will be important for you to be in communication with them regularly to make sure that this information is meeting your expectations, that the work that you're doing is meeting their expectations. So what are some things that might be included in a research assistantship? Participation in research team meetings, recruitment of participants, working on IRB protocols, designing studies, data collection, cleaning, management, maintenance of databases, analysis work, supervision and mentoring and training of undergraduate research assistants, literature searches, manuscript preparation, preparation of conference presentations, grant writing, developing your own program of research, maintaining project-related websites or archival research. As Sue mentioned in her presentation earlier today, you will find that as you're trying to determine what's work that you're doing towards your own research versus work that you're doing towards your research assistantship, you might end up a little bit confused. There's going to be some overlap, right? The work that you're doing is obviously going to be critical to and involved in the research that's happening in your mentor's laboratory or research program. And so it's going to be really important that you are communicating with them to get a sense of what is work that you're doing for yourself versus work that you are doing as part of your research assistantship. There won't always be a clean line, but we do want to make sure that you have all of the information that you need so that you feel like your time is being used productively and you're not being taken advantage of. All of these things are part of what you might end up doing, and we hope that your research mentor will be a strong mentor to you. If you do run into issues where your mentor is not providing the support that you need, or you would like some assistance in making sure that this is all going well, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. We're always happy to help, and frequently all it takes is a little bit of assistance in mediating communication. Similar to the teaching assistantships, there are full and partial assistantships. It's important to remember that whatever your assistantship is, whatever work you are doing on campus must be less than 19.5 hours. HR won't let you have more than that, so somebody will catch it. And so it's important that you stay on top of that. Research assistants are expected to practice ethical research. That's part of Loyola's promise to our community, and then also to it's part of your requirements as a student. You will be expected to take University 370, Responsible Conduct in Research and Scholarship at Loyola as part of your work, as well as potentially the city training. And so make sure that you visit the Office for Research Services website, luc.edu/ORS, and look at the RCRS/compliance link for more information on that course. It is offered every August and May and is free of charge. It's just an opportunity for you to participate in a training session around research ethics. I am seeing a couple of questions, just so you know. We are sort of managing those behind the scenes. If you have any questions, please let me know, and we will try to make sure that we hit everything. Again, at the end of each semester, you should receive an assessment in writing from your mentor. Please make sure that if you don't receive something like that, you request it. That will allow you then to know sort of how things went for that semester, potentially request additional feedback, and continue to improve as a student. Again, on English proficiency, research assistants with native languages other than American English who will be supervising undergraduates are required to take an English proficiency test on campus. If you will not be supervising undergraduates, this is not a requirement for you, but you may wish to do it anyway in case a teaching assistantship does become available at another time while you're a graduate student. So please do be in touch with us if that's something that you would like to do. The requirements around non-renewal for research assistantship are the same as for teaching assistantship. So you need to make sure that you stay above a 3.0 GPA, that you don't have any more than one outstanding incomplete grade in any given year, and that you are an otherwise responsible and ethical student. So please do take a look at these policies so that you know what's expected of you. Again, if you do have to relinquish your assistantship for any reason or take time off for any reason, we hope that you will be in touch with us. I do know that one of the largest problems that we have encountered with students in the past is simply that when things get difficult, folks tend to sort of shut down and not communicate with us, and that makes things much, much harder. So please do, you know, if you're struggling, if things aren't going well, please reach out sooner rather than later. That will always be to your benefit. Taking a look here, it looks like the chat function seems to be working right now, which I'm glad about. Emily, do you see any questions that it might be beneficial for us to address with the larger group?
Hi, they're sort of pouring in at the moment. I know Tamika is getting many questions about new hire paperwork and health insurance. So she is going to do her best to answer those, but I am sending out a link right now for the page on our website that is for financial assistance and funding. So keep an eye out for that right now.
Great, thank you. Please also note that in the group chat right now, you should be able to see a link from Tamika concerning the insurance plan. Student insurance is managed through the Bursar's office, so you'll want to take a look at that information, and you can contact the Bursar's office at any time for questions regarding your insurance. So if your questions are specifically related to insurance, please do that. I don't believe your hours as a TA or RA are managed through Kronos. Tamika, please let me know if that's not the case, but I'm fairly certain that because Kronos is specifically for employers, that's not something, or sorry, for employees, that's not something that you'll be completing. So your hours will be tracked in a less formal fashion unless your mentor does require some sort of formal recording of your hours. Let's see. Information for working online from the Student Accessibility Center. Please do contact the Student Accessibility Center for any additional information. We will be providing information from the Office for Online Learning a little bit later, so you should be able to get that information as well at that time. All right, let's see. I want to make sure that I'm answering any questions for everyone. There is not a recognized graduate student research assistant teaching assistant union at the university. As Loyola's policy at present is that graduate students are students primarily, and that the research assistantships and teaching assistantships are not employment.
And Francisca, to answer your question about where you can view paychecks, that's through the Loyola self-service portal. So I'm going to grab that link for you and put it in the chat.
Sure, thanks. I want to get back to talking a little bit about tips for communicating with your mentor. I think that this is something that's, pretty critical for all of you to be thinking about as you approach this time. I am hoping that, I want to make sure that we have our views on appropriately here. Okay. I'm hoping that this information will be helpful to you as you approach working with your mentor. It's going to be important to remember, of course, that there is a power dynamic, a power differential at play as you work with your research or teaching mentor. You'll all be familiar with this because you've been students for your time. But I do want you to remember that as a graduate student, you start to take on sort of a new role within the university and within those relationships. Your mentor is anticipating that you are bringing a kind of ownership and a maturity to your work that they may not anticipate from an undergraduate. What does that mean? That means that you should feel like asking questions is appropriate, that you should feel like if you have an idea or a suggestion for your work, if you're able to phrase it respectfully and with a sense of your own abilities as a student, as a researcher, as a teacher, that you will share that with your mentor, because those are the kinds of things that make us all better teachers and all better researchers. The expectation is that you are participating in a different way than you have before. So we hope that you will keep that in mind as you communicate with your mentor. I also want to point out that obviously sometimes relationships aren't smooth, right? So you've been assigned your research or teaching mentor based on the needs of your department. What that means is you might get assigned to someone with whom you wouldn't necessarily be friends, that the relationship can be less than collegial or productive at first. And so you might have to do some sort of creative communication work. We do not want to leave you alone in doing that. As you may have noticed if you were at the orientation that was done yesterday, the Wellness Center actually has a group on interpersonal communication effectiveness, which means there's actually a group at the Wellness Center focused on things like, gee, my relationship with my advisor isn't going so great. How do I make that better? I'm not sure how to effectively supervise the undergraduates that I'm working with. All of this information, all of those kinds of things are something that it takes a lot of time and skill to build, and anything that you can do to get better at that means that as you move on as a professional, you will have those skills to take with you. So I do encourage you to contact the Wellness Center concerning that group, or even just, remember that the Counseling Center isn't just for moments of crisis. It's also useful in moments of, trying to build an effective relationship with someone else. So please do keep that in mind as an option for you as you're working with your research mentor. We have about 15 minutes before our next speaker, and I do see that there are a number of questions. So I'm going to try to open this up a little bit for question and answer. Tamika, if you have any particular questions that you think have been coming across quite a few times, if you'd like to share some general information with the group so that folks can see it.
Yes, thank you, Heather. I think I'm seeing a lot of requests to know when the payments for stipends come through. So that's the 15th of each month. The first one that you should receive should be September 15th. Again, please check and make sure that your stipend payments are what you were expecting. If not, definitely feel free to reach out. Another question is in reference to I-9 documents. You can send those to me directly through Loyola secure emails, and I put that link up for the secure email, and I'll do that again really quick so you can see it in the chat. And it's securetransfer.luc.edu. Let's see. There's some concerns in reference to tuition posting. So, I mean, if you have concerns in reference to your tuition, I would advise you to just email me directly. I'll put my email actually here. So if you have any questions specific to your tuition and concerns, definitely reach out to me because we can go ahead and reach out to student accounts and see what's going on. And I'm going to put my email here. And I am getting some of your emails forwarded, some of your chats forwarded to my email. So if you do have like individual specific questions, I'll definitely reach back out to you guys.
Thank you, Tamika.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions concerning policies around the researcher teaching assistantships? Things maybe that aren't specific to your situation that might be of interest to the larger group? So I'm seeing a number of questions regarding whether students who have worked with in labs or for the university before need to fill out new hire paperwork. I think you do need to fill out some paperwork to adjust your station within the university. But again, that would be something that you'd want to work with specifically with Tamika.
Yeah, if you have new hire, if you've already worked within a university, you're not required to complete new hire documents again, but you do need to update things such as direct deposit, things like that. But other than that, you are not required to complete new hire paperwork again, unless you've been.
Tamika, if they're in a staff position, and they're moving to an RA, same thing. The HR has the hire paperwork already done.
Yes.
Okay. One student had asked about that. Thank you.
I do also see a question here concerning student fees, CTA passes, things like that. Tamika, are you able to answer questions regarding fees?
Yeah, so the graduate school takes care of the tuition and insurance. The student fees, such as CTA pass, those are the student's responsibility.
Just to note, student activity fees are not being charged for fall semester given the COVID situation. And the UPass is actually an opt-in for this semester, whereas normally it is a required fee. So just something to keep in mind since we aren't going to be on campus this semester. Will there be reimbursements for internet costs? Emily, can you answer that question?
Oh, yes, there will be. Sorry, can you repeat the question? I just want to make.
So it says, will there be reimbursements for internet costs if we work online as part of our graduate assistantship?
So in the spring semester when we closed for COVID, we started doing telecommunication reimbursements for graduate assistants to cover either their internet or their phone bill. And it was a maximum of $50 per month. That should be happening in the fall semester. And I will be sending out information on that in the coming weeks to let you know how to go about that process to submit your reimbursements. So you'll be getting an email from me. I also have a question that came in the grad school email. someone is asking if there will be an English proficiency test held on campus this year for somebody who is not a native English speaker.
So we are able to arrange the English proficiency tests. I don't know whether it will be in person on campus or something that is done electronically. So that individual student should definitely email me. My email is h7er@luc.edu, and I will happily answer that question for you. Any other? Will the graduate school be able to fund student organizations this year? We typically do sponsor one student organization, the Graduate Student Advisory Council. I believe at this point our budget has not been changed, so we'll still be able to fund student organizations. I don't know that it will be at the same level, but I haven't heard anything to indicate that we wouldn't be able to do that. It's important to remember that there will not be student activities fees charged this term. That means that events that might have been hosted by your department in the past for students might either take a different form, something that doesn't cost as much, or will allow your department to present you with information or training that they might have otherwise done with student activity fees in another way, or they might not happen during fall semester. But once student activities fees are assessed again, that budget line will be created again. Okay. The question about the English proficiency test. I think if you've been in the United States for a significant period of time, the English proficiency test is not a requirement. So feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you with the English language learning program to make sure that that is the case. But for most students who have participated in an English language forward educational system, that's not a requirement. Okay. Okay, this is an excellent question. Someone asks a question regarding a partial stipend for research, allowing you to work up to 16 hours per week. Is the average number of hours to work dependent upon them, their GPD or their graduate advisor, or is there a requirement outlined online? For partial assistantships, that is something that would be negotiated between your GPD, your mentor, and yourself. So it will be important that you have that conversation concerning what your hours are expected to be under that partial assistantship. Because partial assistantships aren't always at the same level, there is no universal policy as to how much they have to be, only that they have to be less than 16 hours per week.
Tamika, several students are asking where they would find the new hire paperwork. Is it something that comes from you or from HR?
It's actually from HR, and I've posted that link within the group chat, and I'll do that again.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question here regarding vouchers for receiving funds or funding to purchase books or supplies for the semester. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. But I think if I understand it correctly, the idea is that because your first payment doesn't come out until mid-September, the question about getting funding and things to start the semester, I don't believe we do. If I'm misunderstanding your question, please do type in a clarification so that I can make sure to address your question appropriately.
Yeah, if the question is in reference to receiving vouchers for books and or supplies, then no, the university does not offer that this time.
Yes, thank you, Tamika. And Tamika has shared the link for new hire paperwork once again. It's luc.edu/HR. Why is the first payment in September? I believe the graduate students are on monthly pay schedules. Tamika, correct me if I'm wrong, and your position starts on August 15th, and therefore the first payment is on September 15th. Tamika, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Heather.
And that is all information that is available to you at any time in your award letter. So please do go back, read through your award letter, and take a look at those policies and that information so that you have some clarification on that. Supplies for your job should be handled through your department. So please do contact your department concerning anything that you need to begin your teaching and research assistantship. That's all something that would be supplied through your department.
And what Heather mentioned about the award letter, sometimes students will forget where that comes from. So you go into GSPS, and once you log in under your merit award, you will see that it says letter. And in that letter, you can actually see the links to your insurance, the links to different things that you need to get. So please make sure you go and print the letter if you didn't already, or save it. And the links for various things are within that contract.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Sue, for that reminder. GSPS is linked from the main graduate school website. Also, you can get to it at any time by going to gsps.luc.edu and logging in using your user ID and password that you use for other university services. I see a question here concerning whether or not the university bookstore is open. I do believe it is. I don't know that their hours are the same as they normally are, so I would definitely check out the university bookstore website to make sure that you're attending and you're visiting them at the appropriate times and whenever they are allowing folks in the system. Okay, I'm seeing lots of questions about UPass. Just so you folks know, we don't manage your UPass, and therefore it's always best to go straight to the source. Go to the UPass office, and they should be able to provide information about UPass distribution.
And Emily provided a link in the chat room for you to get to the UPass.
Yep. Okay, any other questions?
A great
if
question.
we missed your question from earlier, please do feel free to type it in again so that we see it and can address it for you. I'm seeing a question concerning information on your tax forms. That's not something that we can answer for you. It's tax policy. So please do take a look at the information that comes out of the HR website and the student insurance website for that. That's not something that we can do. Your tuition waiver may be slightly delayed at this point. So the office that manages your tuition waivers is processing these as they get them. So hopefully it's something that'll be taken care of soon. If you do get into next week and nothing has been waived, I hope that you will reach out to Tamika and make sure that that everything is in the system appropriately. It just takes a little bit for that process to work.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Heather. Just to reiterate, the Student Accounts Department is working very hard to get things processed. It does take a little time, and they do have a lot going on right now. So if you'll just be patient, and again, if you don't see the appropriate tuition charged to your account, please feel free to definitely reach out, and we can kind of coordinate with you and see what's exactly going on or what the status is.
And I see a note from one of our students, LaShonda, concerning the Center for Student Assistance and Advocacy. Absolutely. Any concerns with starting out the academic year and financial concerns that you have, please do feel free to reach out to them. They're a great office, and you guys all heard from Paige yesterday concerning the resources that they can provide to you. This is actually a perfect transition because our next speaker is Amber Miller from the Dean of Students office, who will be here to speak with us about the Behavioral Concerns team and information about what you should do if you have concern for one of your students. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Amber here. And actually, Amber, I'm going to make you a co-host so that you are able to share your screen.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just get this all started for you. All right. Hello, and thank you for having me. I know that you heard from my colleague Paige yesterday. She gave a wonderful presentation about taking care of yourself as a graduate student. And today, you obviously are putting on your teaching hats because you're going to be carrying a very different role when you step into an instructor position. And so we're going to talk about students in distress. We're also going to talk about the Center for Assistance in Advocacy as well. And so I want to tell you a little bit about me as we start. I am the Assistant Dean of Students and the Behavioral Concerns Team Case Manager. It's kind of a mouthful. I am a graduate of the University of Missouri, Columbia, and I'm also a graduate of Loyola University. This is where I got my master's degree. And I got my master's in community counseling. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor, and I've been a psychotherapist for over 15 years, and that is a salient part of my identity. I know Paige talked to you about all of the identities that you hold. And again, instructor is an additional one that you're going to be adding to the docket. So in my role at Loyola, I am not to be a therapist to students, but my clinical training does lend itself to this work. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what that looks like as we go along. So this picture might look familiar to you. I believe Paige showed it yesterday as well. But this is our team. We are the Office of the Dean of Students. We are a part of the Division of Student Development. And we are positioned in the Damon Student Center when we are actually in office, but we are all working remotely and so available to meet with students and parents and staff and all the like when we're addressing student concerns. So the Center for Student Assistance and Advocacy is an online platform that centralizes all the ways to report student concerns. And even though there are 5 little buttons on your screen right now, we actually have 6 different ways that you can submit a referral for a student concern. We are going to focus, or in our office, we focus on these 3: personal concerns, which we label CARE, behavioral concerns, which we reference as BCT, and then equity and Title IX concerns. And I think you're going to hear a little bit more about those type of concerns after my presentation today. For the intents of this particular presentation, I'm going to talk about personal concerns as well as behavioral concerns. So Paige gave you a nice introduction to CARE yesterday and what that would mean for you as a student. But as an instructor, it's going to be a little different because you are going to be working with students who might be bringing things to you and you might not know where to refer them. So when we talk about personal concerns, complex personal concerns, we're referring to CARE, and it stands for Coordinated Assistance and Resource Education. And so what CARE is actually what a Dean of Students office has traditionally provided for students. It's all those things that don't fit into a nice little box that can overlap each other, and you have a list of potential CARE concerns on your screen. So we get a lot of referrals for students who have lost loved ones. When I added or jumped on this call, you guys were talking about kind of financial referrals. We do get a lot of referrals for students in financial need, as well as students who are struggling with housing. And so over the summer, we've gotten a lot of referrals for housing and financial needs given the circumstances, and we do our best to support students whether they are local or whether they are from afar. So some of these items alone might not result in a referral to our office, but typically our care referrals are layered. So it's not just a grief referral, it's also students going through the loss of a loved one, also dealing with difficult transition to the institution, might also have some other health related concerns, and everything is layered upon each other. And so our goal when we get a case like this is to provide a connection to resources, as well as providing a space for the student to be able to, talk through the concerns from their perspective. So given our position at the university, we provide limited or very little bounds. A lot of times we're getting students who have been referred and referred and referred, and they're tired from going office to office. And so what we can do is we can pick up the phone, get in touch with the people that we need in the financial aid office or the bursar office or the wellness center to prevent, sending a student in another direction. And so we can provide that immediate or expedited access to resources. We also have some limited financial support through our office, but we have to go through a very specific vetting process through financial aid and the bursar before we're able to award a hardship fund. Ultimately, we are there for students who are, facing unforeseen circumstances, and we try to provide them with, a platform and a space to be able to take agency over their choices and, move in a better direction than where they were first coming to our office. So I know, again, Paige alluded to care services yesterday a bit, and so that gave you a few more details, but I want to spend a little bit more time on behavioral concerns team issues. And so following the tragedies at Virginia Tech and NIU back in 2007, 2008, there are a lot of changes that have occurred on college campuses. And so what they found from those tragedies was that, the information might have already been there on campus to prevent these very tragic occurrences. However, people weren't talking to each other. Everything was siloed. And so they needed to come up with a way to make connection points. And so behavioral intervention teams were birthed. And this day and age, you can find intervention teams on nearly every campus in this country, and they play a very valuable role. So at Loyola, our behavioral intervention team is referred to the behavioral concerns team. And it is a multidisciplinary committee that serves as the centralized and coordinated body for discussion and action regarding students exhibiting behaviors that may present a danger to oneself or others, cause a disturbance in the community, and or indicate some form of distress. So these are really, acute issues, and it's very important that we take action on them right away. So we have a structure in our BCT. Every Monday during the academic year, we meet as a team to discuss all of the high-level concerns with our students on campus. And so we have a cross-section of campus partners that we consult with, and you can see them, on our little chart here. But these are the people that have close contact with students a lot. So we have our wellness center representative, as well as residence life, although with so few students living on our campus, that might look a little different this year. We have the Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution. Quite often we do have students who have conduct issues and also are experiencing distress in their lives, and so it's really important that we hear from that team as well. We have representation from first and second year advising. A lot of our first and second year students do struggle, and so it's really helpful to have someone represented from their team. We also have a representative from Student Academic Services who can speak to issues that might pertain to a diagnosed disability or other things like that. And then we have campus safety. We can also invite someone who's not always on the team to our meeting, and we would refer to those as auxiliary members. But everyone that attends this meeting is dedicated to participating throughout the year. It's really important to have, consistency with our members. And then there are 3 people from my office, the Office of the Dean of Students, that are on the team. And that consists of me as the chair of this committee, as well as our Associate Dean of Students and our Dean of Students. So there are 2 primary functions that the BCT serves. We connect the dots. So the goal is to gather information about a student, and then we want to ensure that they have the right resources available to them so that they can be successful as a student here on campus. So behavioral concerns are different than care concerns, although there are many times where a student is bringing forth not only significant mental health concerns, but also the layered pieces of a care concern: financial distress, academic distress, etc. And so a lot of what I do with students lines up with what Paige might do in her care meetings with students. So when it comes to behavioral concerns, we're often looking for the behavior that is standing out. But sometimes students are self-reporting what that behavior might look like. And so some things that you could pay attention to as an instructor: is there a significant academic decline? Was a student actively participating, doing really well, and then suddenly they've dropped off and their grades have sunk? That would be perhaps a red flag. When students start withdrawing or isolating from others, that can often be a sign of something else. I've worked with a lot of students who, upon the initial referral, they are reporting that they can't get out of bed and they can't leave their residence hall or their apartment. That's something that I want to pay attention to. Is a student identifying thoughts of harming themselves or others? And as you all know, as people living in this society, we are very tapped into social media, and a lot of these things come out on social media platforms. And so a lot of our students will be posting things that may imply that they're not well, and then we get we hear about them later and we want to follow up. We have students who self-injure. We have students who might show up in a classroom setting or a virtual class presenting very bizarre and not their typical presentation. If students get disruptive or aggressive, that might be a red flag. If students are showing up to class intoxicated or under the influence, or if they're just reporting that they are struggling with substance abuse or any other distress that goes beyond a care situation, those are going to be routed to me for follow-up. And some things for you to know if you do submit a BCT referral. So one of the things that happens if you're submitting a BCT or a care referral is that it gets sent to 4 people in my office, because we all want to make sure that referrals are addressed quickly. And so once a report is submitted, I get a notification, so does Paige, so does the Associate Dean of Students, as well as the Dean of Students. And so after reviewing that initial report, if there is some missing information, I might reach out to you as a reporter to get more information from you. The student of concern will receive outreach from me, the BCT case manager, within 24 hours, but often it is much sooner. If there is something coming in during business hours, I'm going to respond to it right away.
Amber?
Yes?
We have a quick question that might be appropriate to ask at this point. One of our students asked, if they report a student for being intoxicated, will that student be in legal trouble for having been referred through BCT?
Will they be in legal trouble? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
No, that's not something that my office would ever pursue. If a student is showing up in a campus space where they are unwell in that way, they're intoxicated, the first point of intervention from my end is going to be ensuring that they are okay and that they have the supports that they need. The legalities aren't going to come in unless we learn that there's more serious information. So, you know, if we learn that a student is supplying drugs to other students on campus, that's likely going to be referred to our Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution for further review. But if a student is just reporting that they are struggling with substances and that's disrupting their academic progress, then that is something that we certainly will help a student get connected to the right resources in order to, you know, make improvements in their health. But it's never about, you know, initially sending them through a conduct process or having, you know, law enforcement involved. That's not our approach. Our approach is from a wellness stance.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I have another question, wondering whether the reports BCT referrals are anonymous or if the student of concern will learn who referred them.
Right, and so I'm going to speak on that. And I'm going to show you what the reporting form looks like, and so you can see for yourself. But just to answer that question, BCT referrals and care referrals are not anonymous. And the reason why we do that is twofold. One of which is if we need to get in touch with the reporter to gather more information, it allows us to know who is submitting the referral. We have in years past, without requiring, you know, a reporter's information, gotten referrals where a lot of pieces of information are missing and we have no way to attain it. And so it's really important that we have the referral source. That way we can have continued follow-up with that particular referral or reporter. The second part of that is we always encourage you, if it's possible as a reporter, to have that conversation with the student regarding the referral that's happening. So, you know, I think the handoff with care is a little bit more easier, right? I think Paige alluded to care as an optional service. And so, you know, if you're working with a student who may benefit from additional connections on campus, then a great thing to say is like, hey, it seems like you would benefit from some additional resources. There's this great person that I know in the Office of the Dean of Students. They can certainly help you. Would it be okay if I refer you to that office? And so having that conversation up front can really ease some of the worry a student might receive getting outreach from the Office of the Dean of Students. When it comes to behavioral concerns, it's a little different. And so it's not always easy to have that conversation with the student, like, hey, I better refer you, when a student might be highly activated or in distress. And so, like I said, when we get to the form, I'll show you what we do to identify whether or not the student has been made aware that this referral has been made. So and it's submitted and the initial referral, I will reach out to you to gather more information. And particularly this is revolving around documentation. So we get a lot of reports where a student is saying, that this is what I heard, or this was what occurred in my text message with this person, but if they haven't included the actual text message exchange, it's hard for us to really move forward with that information. We can certainly, but it's really helpful to have all the documentation. So like I said, if you're submitting a BCT referral, the student of concern is likely going to get some sort of outreach from me or a campus partner very quickly. And it all depends on the reported concern. So if there is a really acute situation, we get a report where someone is having suicidal ideation and it seems like they might not be safe, I might ask campus partners like our residence life to conduct a wellness check if we have a student living in the residence halls. And so they have access to the student in a way that I do not, particularly even right now, since they do have staff that's currently on the campus at the moment. So they can reach out to the student and get in touch with them right away. And usually when we have a wellness check occur, we're going to have some sort of connection point to our wellness center for further assessment. And so that might result in a student being walked over to the wellness center for an in-person assessment. The wellness center will have some staff still available during the school year in person, or it might consist of having the student speak to our mental health professional on call to assess for immediate safety in that way. But sometimes we have to use our campus partners in order to make contact with that student as soon as possible. If the situation doesn't arise to something that requires a wellness check, then I am going to be conducting outreach to the student, typically via email as our first channel approach. And then if I don't get a response in a timely manner, then I'll be reaching out by phone. And what is a big difference between care referrals and BCT referrals is that care referrals, again, are optional, but when it comes to behavioral concerns team referral, the student is expected to respond. And so I'm not surprised that students ignore me from time to time. That is okay. I am pretty persistent in getting in touch with students. And so, there are times where I might have to reach out to a student's emergency contact if I really feel like, given the information that we have, it's important that, that student make contact, and we need to ensure safety. And so, given the parameters of FERPA, hopefully you all are familiar with FERPA, we are allowed to, contact our emergency contacts if there's a health and safety concern. And ultimately, the goal is to get the student connected to the right resources. So all of this is meant to be, from an approach of care and concerned, even though I might have to be firm in my approach and say, like, dear student, I really need for you to follow up with me about A, B, C, or D. It's really important that we ensure that you're safe and you have the right resources. But ultimately, it's from a place of care. So one thing to distinguish between just high level or high stress situations versus an imminent threat. And a lot of times when it comes to these imminent threat situations, you're using your best judgment and going with your gut. And we don't want your safety to be put at risk at all. And our best mechanisms of intervention when there is an imminent threat is to contact campus safety as soon as possible. And given the parameters right now, where we have so many students that are all over the country and all over the world, this is the best starting point for us because of their ability to access a wide range of contacts across the country when it comes to threats. And so if someone is threatening to immediately hurt themselves, threatening to immediately hurt someone else, don't bother submitting referrals. We want you to go ahead and make that call to either campus safety, or if you're wanting to bypass campus safety, that is okay. Call 911. That is fine. Either or. Campus safety and the Chicago Police Department will be in contact with one another if there is an emergency pertaining to one of our students. If it is an out-of-state situation, like I said, campus safety is a great place to start when it comes to these types of things. So, do we have any questions before I move on to the next section?
We did have one question concerning how CARE and BCT work together. So do care referrals get forwarded to the BCT case manager if it's appropriate? And who else in the student circle of potentially academic advisors or other folks in the university who might provide support are informed when multiple referrals are made?
Sure, great questions. So if there is a referral that has been labeled as a care referral, but in the body of the information that's shared, it really needs to be BCT, I can easily change that to BCT. So like I said before, when a BCT or care referral is submitted, I get a notification as well as the 3 other colleagues in my office. And so we can coordinate if one of us is not available or out of town, or if we have a lot of care referrals and we need to relieve some of the backlog of referrals, we can spread those out to all of the people in the office. And so we purposely make sure that those notifications are set up because we don't want to let any case or referral fall through the cracks. And like I said, it's really easy to relabel a case if it is better suited either in care or BCT. And so there are times where we've gotten BCT referrals are actually more care oriented, and we make that correction on the back end through our database that we use. In terms of the second question, who knows when these things are happening? So the behavioral concerns team, the people who represent their areas in that meeting every Monday during the school year, they are aware of the behavioral concerns team referrals because it's really important that we're talking about all of the new cases, new student concerns to ensure that students are properly supported. Because we want to look at it from a holistic perspective. That's why we have so many representatives across campus on that team. And the people who are on that team sign a confidentiality agreement at the beginning of each academic year. And so they agree that, you know, what is discussed during those meetings is supposed to stay in those meetings, and they're not taking that back to their own departments or teams. So that is something that happens when a BCT report or referral is made. That student will come up on that team meeting to discuss and ensure again that we have the right resources in place. When it comes to, you know, connecting students to resources, like I said before, when talking about care, we in the Office of the Dean of Students are positioned to access different departments quickly. And so when we get certain concerns, we are going to conduct outreach, and part of that is, you know, sharing a little bit of information about the student need. So if one of my students who is struggling with, you know, having suicidal thoughts and is also struggling with financial concerns, I'm going to do a couple of things there. I will probably be reaching out to financial aid, but I might not share all of the details about the student's mental health with that financial aid person because it's not necessary in order to kind of discuss the financial piece of the puzzle. But if it's something where the student needs to get in touch with a counselor and I want to start with our wellness center, then they're going to know about the information regarding their mental health piece. And so like I said, the goal is not to share information widely about a student concern, but really it's about who needs to know in order to effectively support the student, you know, holistically. Any other questions?
So Amber, we have a question and some concern about how Chicago City Police would interact with students around behavioral concerns team. So perhaps if you can tell us what the policy is around that, and then if there are any, if there is an example you might be able to give us of how those interactions have happened in the past.
So we have a lot of students who live within the community off campus. And if there is a concern about a student's safety, then depending on how it comes to us, so if it's a call to campus safety or if someone has made a 911 call themselves, campus safety will go to that apartment to conduct the wellness check, or the police department will go to that apartment to perform the wellness check. And I can't speak to all of the ways that police officers conduct themselves when they are approaching students who might be distressed, but I know that our campus safety officers are intentional about, you know, being mindful and empathetic if they're responding to a wellness check situation. Because the way that Loyola's Rogers Park campus is positioned, as well as the Water Tower campus, it's embedded within the city and the neighborhoods. you know, campus safety is always monitoring the occurrences that are happening in those communities over the radio. And so if a situation is happening within their campus footprint that they hear over a CPD radio, they might show up as well if, you know, they believe a Loyola student is involved, in order to provide some extra connecting points for that student. Hopefully I've answered your question. Other questions?
So I'm seeing a number of questions in here concerning campus campus safety and the Chicago City Police. I want to be mindful of Amber's time and what she has access to in terms of that information. Refer you all to, feel free to be in touch with the Director of Campus Safety. And they should be able to answer some of those questions for you. I'm also happy to forward these concerns on to the folks within the President's office who manage that relationship, so that Amber can answer questions concerning specifically the behavioral concerns team and how that office works with our current students. So thank you for your questions, and I will definitely make an effort to get those concerns forwarded to the right folks.
Sure, and I completely understand, you know, the concern when it comes to police matters, given what's going on within our city and our country at large. And so I can imagine what some of those questions might look like, but for our policies and for our intent to ensure student safety as immediately as possible, if we have an off-campus emergency, the student is indicating that they want to hurt themselves, have hurt themselves in some way, the fastest way that we can provide intervention and safety to that student is by going through our campus safety channels. And, you know, like I said, campus safety is also very aware of the concerns within the community when it comes to police officers intervening, and they've been very intentional about how they show up in those situations. But I'm going to move on, and let's get into how to make a referral. So going back to the beginning of the presentation, I referenced the Center for Student Assistance and Advocacy. And this is the online platform for all types of student referrals. And so you can see on this page that there are a number of buttons to choose from. And so you have the equity and Title IX concerns here, behavioral concerns, academic concerns, as well as personal concerns, student conduct and conflict concerns, and then general student concerns. So we've added the general student concerns because sometimes it just doesn't fit in any of these other boxes, and that's okay. That type of concern still gets routed to my office. If a student has an academic concern, so you might be advised by your departments to submit academic concerns at midterm, or provide early alerts if students are struggling right away. If there's an academic concern that you're submitting, that's going to get routed to someone in Student Academic Services, specifically Betsy Burns. She's one of the directors in Student Academic Services. If you are submitting a referral regarding a conduct matter, or you encounter a student who's interested in conflict resolution, then by submitting this referral, it's going to go to our Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution. And I believe you might have heard from their director yesterday, Stacy Jacksa. But I want to get into this website just to show you a little bit more about its features. So bear with me if moving screen stops the share. So give me 1 second. All right. Heather, can you tell me if you can see the Center for Student Assistance and Advocacy website that I just pulled up?
I believe we are seeing it. Oh, you know what? No, I think we're just seeing your presentation at this point.
Okay, let me stop the share and do this again. All right, here we go. Share the screen. All right, so can you confirm that you are on? Okay, wonderful. So if you go to Loyola's homepage and put CSAA in the search bar, it's going to take you to this page. And so we have a lot of information at these tabs up top. And if you click on the About, you can read more about the specific information regarding each of the areas where you can submit referrals. But we have some great information for students. A lot of our first year students, are still learning how to navigate such a big, robust community like a university. And so there's some helpful tips here for students that you can look at another time. And then there's some information for faculty and staff as well. So that could be a helpful thing for you to explore further. We also, have people from the community as well as families who find our information on the website. And so there's some guidance for community members and families as well. But for all intents and purposes, if you're finding this page, you likely have a referral to make. And so we've got some information up here. We've added some information about COVID-19 as well. But here you have these tabs again. And I'm going to open up this page. And Heather, can you confirm that you can see this reporting form for me? You're muted.
Yes,
Okay.
we do. We see your reporting form.
Great. So if you're making a behavioral concerns team referral, this is the page that you are going to find. And you can see that we have some language at the top that reminds you that if you're experiencing something that's imminent that you need to take action on by getting, campus safety involved, don't worry about the referral. Please go ahead and make those phone calls. So that's just a reminder, and that's also on our care referral form as well. So you're going to enter in your information as a reporter. And so again, that's all helpful for us so that we can contact you for follow-up if need be. But also helps us know, who are you to the student? Are you a family member? Are you an instructor? Are you a peer? That just helps us gather information. We ask for some of your contact information, the department that you might be reporting from, and if you have some of this other information, that's really helpful. So what is the student's academic department, as well as if there's a specific location of the concern, you would add that as well. And scrolling down, we ask for the student's name. If you don't have their Loyola ID or email address, that is okay. We are still able to find the student in our system. And then we get to the nature of referral or description. And so not all of these presenting concerns are also on our care referral, but a lot of them are. And so when it comes to behavioral concerns issues, it is important that you select the most relevant concerns. You don't have to select everything, the most relevant, because we're going to assess based upon kind of the immediacy of the concerns. And so you have all of these choices. And then the part that really matters the most is the description of the concern. And so we want as much detail as possible that pertains to the concern. Please avoid diagnosing a student's behavior. If a student self-discloses that they carry a mental health diagnosis, that's okay to share, but we're not here to give them a diagnosis in this section. And there's also a part down here that if you have any documentation to upload, submit that there. But going back, so here's a section that I was referring to a few slides ago. Is the student aware that a referral is being submitted on their behalf? Yes, no, unsure. So whenever there is outreach conducted following a behavioral concerns team concern, it is not that within the outreach that I'm saying to a student, I'm saying your specific professor, Mrs. K reached out to me and has these concerns. I'm not necessarily getting into that much detail. I am usually saying one of your faculty members, a staff member, community member reached out to my office out of concern for you. Is everything okay? Let's set up a time to meet, etc. So even if you have said the student is aware of the referral, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be saying specifically you, the reporter, sent them my way. And that just allows for some flexibility in the approach. And also, if you haven't had that conversation with that student, it makes it perhaps less awkward for you or less uncomfortable for you. So like I said, it's really helpful for me to know, does the student know that does the student know that they are being referred, or if not, click that button. And then here, there's also a required checkbox that you must click this button to understand that the referral is not anonymous. And so, you know, again, hopefully I've made it clear as to why these reports are not anonymous, and it's mainly for me, the person reviewing the information, to get additional information from the reporter. But our students are pretty smart, and more often than not, they can put two to two together and understand who might have made that referral. And part of my conversation with them is helping them understand why that referral was meant out of care and concern, and not to be punitive or anything like that. And I understand that students receiving outreach from the Office of the Dean of Students might make them think that suddenly they're in trouble or they're being sent to the principal's office. And that is not how our office is structured. That is not how we approach students. It's really from, like I said, a place of care and support. And so we do a lot to try to demystify some of those assumptions when students get that initial outreach from us. So that is what a VCT referral looks like.
Amber, we do have a question I'd like to point out. We've had a question about whether or not if there's a way to handle a mental health crisis that will not end up in the hands of the campus safety. If a student has concerns about that, is there a way to note that concern in your reporting function?
Certainly, the reporter can identify their concerns. I think it's also very important to be mindful of the limitations that we have right now as an institution. And so, you know, it's hard to speculate how we're going to approach a situation if we don't have the actual concerns right in front of us. But if there is reason to believe that campus safety intervention would be, you know, counterindicated, then we're going to take that into consideration when we're moving forward. But unfortunately, we cannot promise that that won't indeed happen, depending on where the situation is happening. If it's a situation that is off campus, our liaison to the community is with campus safety when it comes to emergency situations. And so, you know, I would just be mindful of that, because we are kind of in this really, you know, untraditional time in you know, higher ed, where we're all virtual, and so we're kind of limited by what is available to us in the moment. What we're going to do, though, so some more information for you all as the reporters. When we get a referral, one of the first things that we do is we look up the information in Locus to verify their standing as a student. Are they currently enrolled? And then one of the biggest important parts right now, because we all are also spread out, is where are they currently? So are they in Illinois? Are they in Chicago? Are they out of state? Are they living at home with their parents? And so there's certainly, you know, avenues that we're going to take, like contacting their emergency contact, especially if they're in the same household and there's immediate safety concern. We want the parents to know and be involved. And so looping them in might help mitigate some of those concerns of potential police intervention. And so we're going to, again, be very mindful about where a student is living, where their location is, and, you know, who we can bring in to help, you know, with the interventions. But if we are not able to reach an emergency contact and we have a concern about danger with a student, then we have to use our channels that are available, and that is campus safety and or the, you know, calling 911. But like I said, if you have a concern about that type of intervention, please note it in the descriptor. You are more than welcome to add that information when you're submitting a referral. Any other questions?
Thank you. Are there other questions?
while Heather is reviewing the questions, some other helpful information, some quick tabs on if you're not sure, is this a BCT, is this a care situation? You can also click on this button here that gives you a reminder, a summary of what BCT concerns are, as well as here, which gives you a summary of what care concerns are. And then each tab has some descriptors that might be helpful. So what I'm going to, yes.
I'm trying to see. Nope, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so I am going to stop the share for this screen and go back to the other screen here. Okay, so, oops, I think I just went back to the same screen. Hold on one second. Okay, there we go. So you have the website for CSAA at the bottom there, and like it said, it's very easy to search for it on the Loyola website. So some reminders and some tips to think about when you're referring either CARE or BCT. So as a reminder, CARE is opt-in. And so if you receive outreach from myself or from Paige when it comes to a CARE situation, you are not obligated to respond as the student. And again, you as the instructor might think referrals or a resource would help the student, but ultimately it's the student decision if they want to take advantage of that resource. BCT is not optional, and so if I do not hear back from a student in a timely manner, I'm going to be taking other measures to contact this student, which might mean calling them, even texting them at times, or potentially getting in touch with their emergency contact if that is the best way to reach them. You might receive information from our office regarding a student's absence or a need for consideration. So we use the term consideration, which is different than accommodation. Accommodation is a word that we associate with the Student Accessibility Center. So if a student is registered with that office and receives academic accommodations, we're going to refer to it accordingly. A consideration might be when situations happen that are unexpected and a student needs additional support. For instance, I work with a lot of students who end up going into the hospital because of mental health reasons, and so they're suddenly absent for a short period of time, and then if they're choosing to come back to the university following the hospital stay, there's a transition period to get reacclimated to that academic setting. And the same happens even when the student isn't on campus. In their communities, they might step out and come back in. And so you might hear from us because we have that information and we want to tell you, there's a reason for the student's absence. And we might ask, like, is there flexibility in the student making up an exam at a later date because they had, what we often refer to as a confirmed medical issue. We will use that to identify mental health concerns, physical health concerns, etc. We keep that vague on purpose to protect the student's confidentiality. But like I said, if you get something like that from our office, we are telling you that something has happened and we have the confirmation that they are dealing with this extenuating circumstance. Just another reminder, the referrals are not anonymous. Hopefully we've made that clear. And on the kind of opposite side of verification of documentation, our team in the Dean of Students office does not verify a student's documentation. So if a student presents to you a doctor's note, you are in the same position to look at it and approve it as we are. And so it's really helpful to be able to feel empowered to do that, because we will get professors sending students to our office saying, hey, you need the Dean of Students to approve this before I can approve that. And that's just not the case. We don't verify students' documentation, which is different from us having learned of a situation about a student's absence or emergency, and we're letting you know that they have a legitimate reason to not be in class. So hopefully that I made that clear. And then something to consider is utilizing a statement in your syllabus. And you can see if you don't have any of our Zoom screens on blocking, but we have a sample statement to include in your syllabus regarding, being connecting students to referral sources. And so if you want that statement and you haven't been able to screenshot it from this presentation, you can always email the office to get a sample of that. Finally, this picture I really feel like is a true depiction of what the Office of the Dean of Students, strives to be for students, whether they're undergrad or graduate students. We're here to help navigate all of the different ups and downs whilst, an individual is a student here. And so there are a lot of things that we're hoping students will learn and attain in the process of being at Loyola, but also if they have to interface with our office, we want to help them develop skills to be able to feel empowered, to take agency over some of the choices and challenges that they face. And I'm really here to nudge them along in, a direction where they feel that they have the strength to do that in the future. And so, there are a lot of different adjectives on this that, we really hope that, students will leave Loyola with, after their time here is over. And that is it. So if there are additional questions, I think we do have some time for me to answer them. Heather?
Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions, but we can give it a second. I do want to note that for those of you who shared concerns about the interactions between behavioral concerns, campus safety, and the Chicago Police, we will be sharing those concerns with the folks in campus safety, the Dean of Students Office, the Anti-Racism Initiative, and the graduate school to make sure that there is an attempt made to open that dialogue with concerned students. So please note that those concerns are being shared, and we hope that we can help push the needle forward on this issue for you. Are there other questions though for Amber concerning the behavioral concerns team or really anything that happens out of the Dean of Students Office? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, Amber, so thank you so much for sharing this information. Folks, this recording will be available after the fact, assuming our recording worked okay. And then also we have our Title IX training coming up in just a moment, which will actually cover a question I'm just seeing about an obligation to report. So just hang on a couple more minutes and we'll have that presentation available for you. Thank you so much, Amber, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, and thank you for your time, and really appreciate all the questions that you're asking. Again, I haven't seen all of them, but you all are certainly bringing up good, valuable points that we need to explore further. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, everyone. I am going to ask Emily to share now a video with you that was produced by the Office for Equity and Compliance concerning your rights and responsibilities under Title IX. One of the reasons that we asked you all to join us today is that there have been changes to how that law is interpreted on a federal level. And so Loyola would like to update you on what your federal law requirements are, as well as what are considered to be Loyola community requirements. So thank you for joining us. And Emily will go ahead and load that video. I do want to note that if you have any questions for the representative from Equity and Compliance, she is happy to answer them. What she's asked is that we share them with her so that she's able to create an FAQ document. She understands that this information is going to be new and potentially confusing for folks. And so rather than just answer them in a one-off discussion, we do want to make sure that that's information that we can publish and make available to everyone.
Okay, can you all see this?
Yes, it does appear to be showing up. Thank you, Emily.
Okay, here we
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Brooks. I am the Deputy Title IX Coordinator and Equity Investigator for the Office of Equal Opportunity. In response to the new Title IX regulations issued by the Department of Education to be implemented starting August 14th, 2020, Loyola University Chicago has updated its comprehensive policy and equitable resolution procedures for discrimination, sexual misconduct, and retaliation. While all faculty and staff, with very limited exceptions, continue to be considered responsible campus partners and must report any incident of sexual misconduct of any kind against a student or minor that is reported or disclosed to them directly, graduate teaching and research assistants do not have the same reporting obligation. The Office for Equity and Compliance, or the OEC, however, strongly encourages graduate teaching and research assistants to report any incident disclosed to them by a student or minor. We want every member of our community to know there are resources available to them and options in how to address any incident of discrimination and harassment or sexual misconduct. In making a decision as to whether you will report an incident disclosed to you, please consider the following. The OEC strives to honor the agency of our students in making decisions around next steps when disclosures are made. We also want to ensure appropriate resources and support may be provided to our students. If a student discloses an incident of potential sexual misconduct or discrimination to you, are you prepared to hold the responsibility for the information shared with you? Can you confidently speak to the resources and supports available to students on and off campus? Or would you prefer to hand that responsibility over to the OEC and Dean of Students Office, who will reach out to the student to learn what, if any, supports the student might want from the university, including connecting them to off-campus services, medical care, and law enforcement as requested? In some cases, though, an obligation to report potential discrimination or sexual misconduct may be a barrier for students to participate fully in discussion. We want to be mindful of the value in students sharing their lived experiences in an academic setting and to be flexible in honoring their agency in deciding to whom they tell their stories. If conversations about sexual misconduct or discrimination are germane to the course or lab experience in which you interact with students, you may want to preemptively address how disclosures will be handled in that space. While the university has amended its policy around reporting obligations, we remain committed and available to students. We want to ensure every student knows their resources and how to connect with them. And as such, we encourage reporting of all incidents of misconduct. What if a student requests an academic accommodation? If a student discloses an incident of potential discrimination or sexual misconduct to you because the student is seeking an academic accommodation, you should discuss the request for the accommodation with your faculty or lab supervisor. Please know that this will trigger the faculty member or staff supervisor's reporting obligation, and the student should be informed a report will be made. It is critical, however, that when providing an academic accommodation to a student because of a disclosed incident, any accommodation granted to one student is not punitive in nature to another student. This is why consultation with faculty and staff supervisors is advised. In order not to betray the trust of any student, we also encourage you to tell students up front that there may be instances where you would need to discuss information disclosed with a faculty or staff supervisor who are responsible campus partners. In some cases, you will become aware of a potential incident between students because a student in your course or lab will present you with a letter showing there's a no contact directive or NCD in place between the student presenting the letter and another student in the course or the lab. A no contact directive does not prevent students from being in the same room. However, it does limit all contact, direct or indirect, and communication between them directly and indirectly. For this reason, students with NCDs should not be seated next to each other or assigned adjacent workspaces. They should not be placed in breakout rooms or project groups together, be required to comment on each other's online post, or engage with each other in any other way, including through other students in the course or lab. In our current climate of online courses, It could also be reasonable that a student may request not to appear on camera if they have an NCD with another student in the course. In other cases, a student may present you with a letter requesting an academic accommodation due to the impact of an incident of sexual misconduct. Some students may need additional time to complete an assignment or may need to miss class due to involvement in a criminal investigation or for other safety reasons. Any questions or concerns about how an academic accommodation may impact a student's ability to fully participate in a course or lab activity can be directed to Tim Love, OEC's Executive Director and Title IX Coordinator at tlove@luc.edu. Perhaps your biggest concern is how to respond to a student who discloses an incident of discrimination or sexual misconduct. If a student discloses such an incident to you, we encourage you to lend your support, but avoid asking probing questions about the student's experience. Please also let the student know that they can submit a report to the OEC and that the student will receive resources and information from OEC or the Dean of Students Office staff. The easiest way for anyone to submit a report is to use the public reporting form available on our website. Let me show that to you. So as you can see here, this is our website, and here on the top corner, there is a button called Report. If you were to report, click on this button. It will bring you to the online reporting form. Again, our website address is www.luc.edu/equity. If you ever have any questions about which form to use, or if you want to consult before submitting a report, or you just need other assistance, please contact any OEC staff directly or email our office at equity@luc.edu. If you decide you're going to report all disclosures of discrimination, sexual misconduct, and retaliation to the OEC, regardless of not having a reporting obligation, the university encourages you to be upfront and transparent at all times that you will be reporting these incidents, particularly with students with whom you regularly interact. Our website offers recommended language about faculty's reporting obligations that could be tailored for graduate teaching and research assistants' use to be included in course syllabi or other instructional information for students. We encourage you to remind students during your first class meeting or lab section that you will report disclosures to the university, not to deter students from disclosing incidents, but rather to ensure they receive information about the resources and options available to you. Again, graduate teaching and research assistants are no longer obligated to report disclosures of sexual misconduct or discrimination to the university. It is your choice, but we strongly encourage reporting. In making a decision whether to report, please consider why the student has made the disclosure, what the student may need, and your knowledge of the resources and options available to the student. Loyola is committed to creating and supporting an environment free from discrimination and harassment, where all of our students and employees can thrive. We thank you for your partnership in fulfilling this mission, and we encourage you to reach out to our office at any time by emailing equity@luc.edu if we can be of any assistance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily, for sharing that video. We did have a question concerning whether or not there is a similar statement as to what graduate students are responsible for. Yes, there is. We will be sharing on the orientation site a statement of the policy concerning whether or not you're mandated to report or your reporting obligations for the university. So that information will be made available on the orientation website. One of the reasons we want to make sure that everyone has this information and this video and that link is available is because this is a change from previous years. So for those of you who have gone through a similar training in past, you would have seen different regulations. So we want to make sure that you all have that information. We are approaching the noon break. I want to encourage you, if you have additional questions for the Office for Equity and Compliance or other questions concerning anything that we've talked about today, please do feel free to email gradschool@luc.edu, and we will make sure that those questions get addressed. And we will be back at 1 o'clock today for our conversation with Brianna Allen from the Office for Online Learning, where she will be able to talk to teaching assistants and really anyone else who wants to attend about online learning and what you can do as a teaching assistant to make that that experience a more pleasant one for everyone. I am seeing a question. Yes, we are done from 11 to 1. Things went a little bit faster this morning because instead of having a speaker for the Office for Equity and Compliance, we simply had the video for all of you to watch. So we do have a long break in the middle of the day. I hope that that's helpful and productive time for you. And we look forward to seeing all of you this afternoon who are coming back for the teaching assistant workshop. I do want to make sure that you all have the Zoom link for the workshop that's happening this afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and share that to this screen so you can write down the meeting ID if you don't have it written down already. And then I will stay on for the next 10-15 minutes so that you can write down that information in case you need it. So I'm going to go ahead and share that right now. You can see the Zoom link for our online learning, teaching and learning session is listed below. So you should be able to find that information right here. And please feel free to jump in the chat box if you have any other questions in the short term, but otherwise we will see you at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So thank you so much everyone for attending, and we will see you soon.
Heather, could you copy that Zoom link into the chat?
I think so. Yes. Let's see. This is one of those times when using a PDF really is not helping me out. Let's see. Chat. Right. It's not letting me see the chat function.
I can grab. Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go. I got it now.
LaShonda.
Thank you, LaShonda. I'm seeing a question regarding getting a recording. Once it is produced, so it goes through a process where it's saved and then turned into a viewable format, it will be shared on the orientation website, which is gradschool.luc.edu, or sorry, luc.edu/gradschool/orientation. I apologize. luc.edu/gradschool/orientation is where you can find that information after today. Okay, I'm still seeing some more participants. That's totally fine. If you have any other questions, please do let us know. If you're just writing down the Zoom link, please note it is also in the chat room, so you can copy and paste it from there.
LaShonda, we do too.
Yes, we miss doing this event in person as well. For those of you who are still here, if you are having issues getting that Zoom link, please do let me know. Okay, Sue, you are unmuted. Just so you can see, there are additional students. GA have any more meetings to attend today? No, unless if you're a research assistant, if you do not have teaching responsibilities, you do not have to attend this afternoon. Please note that if your department has any orientations or anything, that's not something that we would control. And so you might have other things that are going on, but nothing else for graduate assistants for the rest of today. Yesterday's orientation session will be available again on luc.edu/gradschool/orientation. It takes a couple of days from what our IT folks have told me to get everything processed in order to be viewable, but that information will be up there as soon as it is available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to stay on with the information shared on the next session until 11:10. So if you can take a couple of minutes, write down that link, and then we will be ending the meeting.
The guest speakers were great, Heather.
Thank you.
My daughter's so excited. She got her new MCAT scores.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I said to her, I bet you're sorry you didn't apply to Harvard now.
Oh, wow. So they're that good. That's great.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think she
Wonderful.
509 to a 521.
That's wonderful. I don't know what those numbers mean anymore.
Yeah, I think 525 is the highest, but 99 percentile she got. But she studied
Wonderful.
all summer for that. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Oh, I'm so
and-
glad to hear that. Congratulations to Mary.
yeah. And I think that she took this course. She would highly recommend it. That it's like a man and his wife, I think, and maybe another kid. They start this company and they only take 12 students in their class.
So
And they
you
go
get
through
that
every
kind of one-on-one.
exam. It's like you take the exam, the next week they meet and they go through what were you thinking, like a one-on-one tutorial thing.
Yeah.
So she was so mad she took the other course that she paid a fortune for. And, you know, it was a big classroom one and she said it was worthless, you know, so.
Wow.
And
Yeah, well, that's great. I'm so glad she found something that worked.
I know, so.
Okay, at 11:10, I'm going to go ahead and close down this meeting. Sue and Emily, I will send you a meeting invite so that we can follow up about things before we start the 1 o'clock session.
Oh, okay.
Sounds great.
Tamika, if you would like to attend the 1 o'clock session, please do let me know. But, you know, obviously, I'm sure that this generated a lot of questions for you
Or
to
Tamika,
answer
more
from
emails.
students. And so we want to make sure you have time to answer those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does,
So you
it's
just
fine.
let me know if you need anything from me. And I'm going to go ahead and close this down. Thank you so much to everyone who attended, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya. Good job.